I'm Aimee, a mom from California and a clean beauty advocate here to educate about what is in your products to anyone who will listen and even those of you who don't want to listen.
Oh, and I'm Andee. I'm a mom from the heart of the Midwest, Minnesota. We make some and break some rules in our house about what is safe, what is clean, and we're constantly wondering what we can learn next. And this is Coast to the Heart.
Okay, so a little bit more about me. Again, I said my name is Aimee. I have a son. I'm married. We live in sunny California. The beach is my happy, happy, happy place. That's where you'll always find me. Luckily now I know about clean sunscreen, so I'm safely enjoying the sun at the California beaches. But a little bit about my why and why clean beauty advocacy is so important to me. About 10 and a half years ago, I got a call from a girlfriend of mine who knew the founder of a company that Andee and I both work for and started telling me a little bit about how unregulated the personal care industry was. And when I mean unregulated, I mean it had been 80 something years at that point since a law had been passed governing the personal care industry. I had no idea. I was shocked, I was sad, and then I was fired up. So within 10 minutes of hearing about the fact that the Noxzema that I had been using since I was a teenager wasn't a safe product for me or the environment, I looked over at my then 8-year-old son and thought, oh my gosh, I am bathing him in formaldehyde. It made me super sad. But then right away I realized, but I didn't know. So I got to get past the sad. I have to fire up on the mad, and I need to share everything I just learned in a 10-minute conversation with anybody who would listen. And I've been doing that and learning along the way and sharing and learning and sharing, and I'm still sharing and still learning, and it's just become my life's passion. So I'm so excited to be here with one of my clean beauty besties and for us to just be able to share with you all what we've gone through. We've made mistakes too. We still don't know everything, of course, but it's so important for us to be able to share what we do know.
Oh my goodness. And I love that, Aimee. Talk about mistakes, right? I think that's the one thing that brought us together originally was just learning how we can, when we know better, what we can do better. And I think you hit it right there with talking about your son when he was 8. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Again, I'm from Minnesota. I'm from the heartland of the Midwest, where we all try to be Minnesota nice and do the right thing, and being good is so important. And I found myself, what I always say, growing up in the professional beauty industry. My first job right out of college, I felt like I was living in, do you remember The Devil Wears Prada when that book first came out in the early 2000s, and then it turned into a movie and everyone said they wanted to be Andee Sachs? You know, it wasn't because my name was Andee, but like living that dream and working in that corporate setting with fashion and hair and beauty. In my 20s, I thought I had made it, and I worked in the professional salon industry at the corporate level for over a decade. That was where I had the amazing, amazing ability to have a front row seat in the beauty industry to see how products are actually formulated differently. And I didn't know then what I knew come 2018 when the Safer Salon Bill was passed in California. What I knew then was that while we made beautiful products and sold beautiful products in all of our hair salons in the US, Canada, and UK, what I didn't know was why we had to make 3 separate formulas. What we made could not be sold or used in the UK, could not be sold or used in Canada, but in the US, we were all good with it. And I loved that. It was just the best job I ever had. It was so much fun. But then we have kids, we lose parents. I lost my mom at a young age. I'll talk about that some other time. But we start asking a lot of those questions as moms, and we start wondering, like, what can we do differently to learn from our past? And so it was when the Safer Beauty Bill, or Safer Salon Bill, I should say, was passed in 2018 in the state of California, that I all of a sudden said, how did this happen? How, for the first time in 2018, did we realize that salon workers for decades and decades had been affected by and been diagnosed with asthma, uterine cancer, time and time and time again? It wasn't until 2018 that salon and hair product manufacturers had to disclose the ingredients that were on the product labels in back bars and salons. It wasn't for resale. It was just for consumption on site. So it never had to be disclosed. And I said, Who was behind that? How did that happen? That was incredible. Who made products safer for these thousands and thousands of women who worked in hair salons? And that's what led me to this clean beauty journey and this ingredient safety journey. And so today, I educate my friends, families, consumers on ingredient safety and help them find safer personal care products. But it's the advocacy piece that connected you and I.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And speaking of health concerns and eye-opening, situations, when I was hearing from my girlfriend about how unregulated this industry was and what some of these ingredients could do in terms of hormone disruption or, unfortunately, lots of other side effects, I started thinking, wait a minute, it took us 5 years to get pregnant. And I was always told it was just, I'm forgetting the word, unexplained infertility. There was a million different reasons, but they never came up with a reason. And a light bulb went on in my head was like, wait a minute, maybe there's a connection. I'm not saying that my personal care products are the only reason I couldn't get pregnant, but perhaps there was a connection. And then I started thinking more about friends I had who were young. I was in my early 40s at the time, who were getting cancers that we'd never even heard of. So a lot of light bulbs went on for me within that first couple of minutes. And so for you, it was in the corporate setting. For me, it was sitting in my backyard going, oh my God, maybe this is why I'm such an old mom. I did finally have a baby, thank goodness. But it really fired up that advocacy piece too. I knew nothing about the clean beauty industry. I'd never used a clean product. I didn't even know, what that meant. I think we're still sort of defining that and figuring that out. But I'm just so happy that that phone call was made to me and my eyes were opened. And I personally have over 2,000 people that I've influenced in making, smarter choices, and probably more, but that's the number I can throw out there. And, making smarter choices about their products, helping them swap products out. And that just makes me so proud. But the advocacy piece, and we'll talk more with you guys about a lot of the laws that Andee and I have been influential or been able to help kind of get through and lobby for. And that just makes me so proud.
Well, let's talk about that for 1 second, because we've now talked about the fact that you and I are moms. I always say I'm a bad mom trying to make good choices, but we've talked about, I mentioned the Safer Salon Bill. We talked about advocacy. The thing that I really want everyone to understand and hear from us and understand is that we've said that the beauty industry in the United States of America is woefully unregulated. Well, what does that actually mean? Franklin Delano Roosevelt passed the only federal law regulating the ingredients that could go into personal care products way back in 1938. Over that time, since 1938 up until 2022, there were over 80,000 ingredients introduced to personal care products in the US. And when Aimee and I talk about personal care products, we're talking about everything from shampoo to shave gel to sunscreen to anything that you put on your skin is called a personal care product. So 2 things we want everyone to understand. One, when we talk about laws, this is a bipartisan topic. This is both sides of the aisle saying we want a safer and better future for all. We're also talking about men, women, children, everyone. So everyone uses a personal care product every single day. Let's just assume everyone uses deodorant. Okay, I know that's a personal choice. Let's just assume everyone uses deodorant every single day. So the fact that there hadn't been a major law regulating this industry since 1938 was very important for us to be involved in the passing of MOCRA in 2022. That's the Modernization of Cosmetics Reform Act that was enacted in 2022, heavily influenced by the work that myself, Aimee, and others have done in this industry. We're going to go way deep into that and the reasons why it matters. But number one, it means empowering the FDA to have more authority in the personal care industry. We always say it's, little f, big D, little a. So it's the same organization that can recall your spinach and lettuce and arugula when it's contaminated, but they actually can't recall the personal care products that you put, or that Aimee, that you washed your son in the bathtub every single day. So that's the work that Aimee and I have done for the last many years, and the work that we continue to do, that we continue to be so passionate about. Again, learning from what we've done in the past, sharing that information, education with others, and finding a way to make a positive impact and create those ripple of waves, right? We are making waves from coast to coast, from coast to the heart, from coast to the heartland of the Midwest.
I love it. And if you guys want your minds blown, Andee mentioned FDR signed that law back in 1938. It was 1.5 pages long. And as Andee mentioned, it gave the FDA zero ability to recall anything that they identified. And at that time, it was 15 ingredients, and they upped it to 30 over time. They identified 15 ingredients in 1938 that the government knew were not safe, But the way the law was written, the FDA could do nothing about companies using those ingredients. I mean, that just blows my mind. And then fast forward to 2022, before another federal law is even remotely passed governing this industry and protecting us, it blows my mind. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done with MOCRA, but man, are we finally on the right path?
Well, we're on the right path, but think about it. It's the fact that, in Canada, they have the hot list of now almost 700 ingredients. They knew. The UK now has over 1,700 ingredients. They know that it's going to, or the EU, I should say, it's one of those things that the world knows, and the world's becoming more educated and becoming more aware. But that story is something that we need to keep sharing far and wide and from coast to coast.
That every day I meet somebody that has no idea. Like, I literally blow people's minds every day when I mention them. Well, actually, we don't use retinol because retinol is not a clean ingredient. They're like, wait, what? What? We could do a whole episode on retinol.
We could. And you were talking about sunscreen, where I say to kids on the soccer field in the summer, I don't use chemical sunscreen. Now, any sunscreen is better than no sunscreen, but I don't use chemical sunscreen. Why? And then we have that conversation about why. We talk about skin, we talk about the reefs, we talk about the aquatic systems. There's so many ways, and products are so vastly different than they were obviously in 1938. The technology and the ability to create safer is there. It's just about, again, augmenting and helping the FDA and our partners in federal advocacy and law to empower manufacturers to make those choices.
Are you guys wondering how we met? I mean, I'm in California and Andee's in Minnesota.
There was a DeLorean, and the DeLorean said, go back to... Boom. No, that's not how it was. Guess where we met. Okay, tell them where we met. I know, this is like, bum, bum, bum.
Surprise, surprise. We met in Washington, D.C., lobbying for clean beauty or the clean personal care.
Well, let's talk about that for 1 second, because I think that's the one thing. I don't want anyone who's listening to this saying, oh, Aimee and Andee met on Capitol Hill. That must be really unique to get that opportunity. Guess what? It's not. Everyone has a Hill day. I say everyone, but anyone who has a passion or a purpose, who wants to make their voice heard. Lobbying days are very, very common. I bet there's 365 or more lobbying days a year. But we had our particular lobbying day where we educated Congress, members of their staff, on 14 pieces of legislation that we had been educated on. They brought us in as constituents from our backgrounds, from our states, to come in there, represent, I was representing Minnesota, Aimee was representing California, but we all had one common goal, again, which was to improve regulation in the U.S. We didn't know then. What we knew now was that we were helping pass that first major law since 1938. But that doesn't mean our work is done. Aimee and I are hoping to go back again this spring to continue the good work that we have done. We'll talk more about that later. There's always ways to improve the personal care product industry, again, with the goal of creating a safer future for all.
Yes. And I selfishly was very excited to be back in D.C. because I had interned in Washington, D.C. when I was in college. And I had the bug. I needed to be on Capitol Hill. I never went back there and worked, unfortunately. But for me, this just brought so many passions together all at once. I had lobbied with my local congresswoman here in the Bay Area. I had been to Sacramento. So this was just a dream come true to be actually on the Hill. But one thing I do remember, and Andee mentioned that every day is a lobby day. You guys, your voices matter, and you can use them every day for whatever passion project whatever fires you up and that you really want to make change happen in. But I remember when I worked for the Senate Judiciary Committee, and every day the doors were always open in the halls of Congress. Anyone could walk up and down the halls, and there's a wooden mailbox sitting right by the door to the Senate Judiciary Committee office. And every day, several people would come by and just drop letters into this wooden box. And then one of the legislative assistants would collect them at the end of the day and read them. And this was, I'm going to age myself right now, but this was back in 1992. So even back then, people were handwriting letters, and obviously before that too, to get their voices heard. And that's what is just so powerful about our voice, is that we can make change happen. And that kind of back in 1992 is when I started getting interested in lobbying, finding something I was passionate about, and making sure that there was something I could do about it.
Well, and I think, again, this is the platform that we're choosing to go down. The point is to amplify our voice. We talked about sitting in that room, the elected officials, whether it's your state and federal level, it is their desire and hope to hear from you every single day. Your voice is why they are there. And so sometimes we don't know how. We don't know where to go. We don't know how to use our voice or how to make a difference. Aimee and I learned one way that we could actively be involved in a passion that was so close to our hearts, that mattered to our families, that would matter to future generations. So again, think of this as an opportunity to come back to what we have done, what Aimee and I have learned from, how we've made mistakes along the way, how we're raising our kids, how we're influencing our family and our friends. And those, honestly, Aimee, let's talk about that for one hot second. Who was the first person to listen to you about clean beauty education or making safer choices? Because I will tell you who it was not. It was not my children, and it was not my husband.
And I'm sure my mom's going to listen to this too, but it was not my mom for a really long time.
No.
It was a lot of it is people who I don't know at all. It kind of runs the gamut.
Mm-hmm.
But if you talk long enough about something, the people that you love and are closest to you will finally come around and start paying attention.
No, I was just saying, you can't argue with science. I think that's the one thing, is the science-backed research, or just, again, the commonality of, again, we're not going to talk about specific brands here, but certain lawsuits coming to light in recent years, or certain recalls coming to light in certain years. That's because legislation, awareness, education is improving. You're going to start seeing this happening on a regular basis. And it's not to make anyone afraid of the products that they pick up on the shelves. It's just to encourage everyone to say, you can make a choice. You can be heard. You always send a message to manufacturers when you stop purchasing their products, but let it be known that you care about it. You don't have to go to that state and federal level and write the letter and drop it into the wooden box in 1992. You don't have to do that, but you can just stop purchasing those products that have been linked to certain illnesses or harm.
Yeah. But to that point of dropping a letter in that box, a little fun fact, and I'm sure we'll share this over and over again because it's one of my favorite facts about advocacy and about making change happen, that it only takes 21 messages to a legislative office about a topic for that topic to be required to be reviewed and researched by a legislative assistant, and then a report put on their legislator's desk. 21. So if you and 20 of your friends got together and made a phone call today to your local senator about whatever issue it is that you're concerned about, that issue will be elevated into a report and then put in front of that legislator for review. That's powerful, you guys. That just blows my mind. So whether it's dropping the letter in the wooden box, calling, texting, and Andee and I can talk more in future episodes about how to do that. It doesn't take a lot of time, but boy, does it make a big impact.
Okay, Aimee, we didn't talk about this, but I have a question for you.
Oh.
Think back, you were talking about 1992. Mm-hmm. What was your scent or fragrance of choice? What is like a scent that brings you and transports you back to that time? Because I think everyone has one.
Calyx by Clinique. I
don't even know that one.
Oh, it was a grassy perfume, a grassy scent. It was in a clear bottle. I loved Calyx. Before that, it was Liz Claiborne. I was a Liz Claiborne girl. And then Calyx. I loved Calyx so much. I would never spray it anywhere near anyone that I remotely liked anymore. But it was my favorite. That was my scent.
Oh my gosh.
What about you? What was yours?
Okay, well.
Were you even born yet in 1992?
Oh, yes, I was. You are too cute.
I'm the old lady of the group, you guys.
You're not. Well, I was going to say, no, I was, I'll just be honest. Yeah, I was born 80s baby, 90s raised me is what I always say. My scent was CK1, of course. CK1 because, we were just trying to be, we didn't call it gender fluid at that time, but we were trying to have one scent for all. And then it was Clinique Happy. And I think I just wore that for years and years. But it's funny, I'm asking this question because scent always just brings you back to a time and it has that personal connection to you. And it's one of those things that I think everyone can unite behind that to say, what were you wearing at that time? And I think that's the point. It's a personal care product, but you think about like those memories and how it comes back to you. And you don't think about that at that time. Actually, then don't forget, was it Aqua di Gio? No, that was for men. That was another one.
Well, Dracar Noir for men. I mean, anytime I hear Dracar Noir, I'm like, I picture my sister's high school boyfriend. Sorry, Gary, I love you. They're now married. And like every other guy who's trying to impress a girl just bathed in Dracar Noir.
Right. But I think that's the fun thing where you're like, I didn't know what I didn't know then. I didn't know about the fragrance loophole back then. But man, it makes me feel good. It makes me like brings back all these like fun, positive memories. I think that's the thing that I get so excited about is like you and I, we are helping create a safer future where our kids are going to have those same fun olfactory memories. Like, what did you wear in 2027? Blah, 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 blah. But knowing that how much safer and how much better it's going to be for them and not have those linked health effects. Those are the fun things that I think about when we do the work that we do. do. Again, I always say I live by the 80-20 rule to this day. I mean, there's 100%. You cannot be 100% safe, clean, non-toxic in the world that we live in. There are environmental toxins are called environmental toxins for a reason. They're in your environment. You can't avoid them, whether it's the mattress you sleep on, the pans that you cook in, it's everywhere. But again, you will find brand after brand after brand. No, when they know better, they do better. They're creating better. And we just make those choices over time.
And we have so many more choices now that we can make than even 10 and a half years ago when I started learning about this industry. There weren't a lot of choices back then. There are more now, which is very exciting.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Okay, Aimee. Well, I want to know, is there anything else that you want to share about Coast to the Heartland? I think we talked, or Coast to the Heart. I think we talked a little about you being from Coastal Cool, Aimee, and I'm Midwestern Mom, but let's see, what are things that we have in common? I know we both love to travel.
We both love to travel.
And I would always say, like, tell me if you can go on vacation. I'm not like guessing because you live in warm, sunny California. Would you rather go somewhere warm or somewhere cool? Because you, like I said, you kind of have the best of both worlds where you are.
Always warm, 100%. Always warm.
Always warm. And I am always warm too, because I think you can never get warm enough when you live in the Midwest.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely put me on a beach, put me by sand. I have that popular destination desire where I love like going on cruises, but I love being on water or near water. There's just something really calming and soothing about that. And I think, again, I always am able to tell a really great story about sunscreen and safer sunscreen and why it's important to choose safer in those instances too.
Yeah, that's so funny you mentioned the sunscreen because we do travel a lot to warm destinations. And the great thing about going, cleaner, wherever it is, whether it's food or whatever in your family, is your kids start to pay attention and then it becomes just typical life for them. So whatever we're about to get like on a catamaran or go near the water or snorkel, whatever, I look at my boys and they're like, we know, Mom. Don't use any of the sunscreen that your friends are with or whatever. Just use what we have, or they'll see me looking at the ingredients on the boat. But they do the same thing, which is exciting. I think another fun fact is my husband's name is Andee. So I'm clearly drawn to amazing Andes.
And both of our names have 2 E's, which again,
and our names end with 2 E's. Come on.
Not an interesting fun fact, but it's one of those things that, I always say, we should just address this right away. I'm an Andrea. I was born Andrea. I will always be Andrea. No one ever knows like how to say my name. It's not difficult, but I always, that there's like the 3 levels of friendship with me, that if you're a complete random stranger, a doctor, a teacher, you're going to call me Andrea and I'll answer. It's okay. Like I go to pick up a prescription and I say, hi, my name is Andrea. Or if you're one of like my friends, just like you, Aimee, I'm always Andee. That's how you met me. But if you are like my nearest and dearest, you're calling me Andrea. And it's just like that really fun way of knowing like levels of friendship. You go by Swanee sometimes too, don't you?
Well, yeah, that's my husband's nickname based on our last name. His dad was Big Swanee and then he was Little Swanee. Now he's Big Swanee and my son is Little Swanee. So yeah, it's kind of a fun nickname. And then I think another fun thing to share just is why the heck are we even doing this? Besides obviously wanting to connect with more people in a broader lens, is that from the minute we met, we could not stop talking. And we just had so much like to share and we just bounce off ideas off each other. And we believe in a lot of the same things. We have very similar energy. And I just, I love being in your aura. And so we thought, this is a great way to continue to be together, even though we're separated by many, many miles.
And let's just say, I think that's a great way to end this. I think that's our goal, is to separate and connect everyone through many, many miles. Whoever you are, wherever you're listening, hopefully you find a common thread either between Aimee or myself, something that you can come back to. Know that the mistakes that you've made in the past, they're not even mistakes at all. They're stepping stones of learning and education all throughout life. Chances are we've made them ourselves, or we know someone who has, and we will not call them out on this podcast. But the point is that we want you to keep coming back, listening to what we have, what we can share with you, learning something from us along the way, maybe laughing with us, maybe making fun of us. Who knows? I've got a great Northern accent. I just spent the weekend with my family, so my Minnesota accent's real thick right now. It's just, I can't stop saying that. It's so funny. Oh, you betcha. You betcha. So anyway, thanks for listening today. It's been, Aimee, I miss you so much. I can't wait to give you a hug on the next podcast.
I know, me too. Yay, this is so fun. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Coast to the Heart is a Northern Roots Media production. This episode was edited and mixed by Evan Marlowe and production assistant Keely Marlowe. Follow us on Instagram at Northern Roots Media and find more information about this episode and the show at northernrootsmedia.com.